Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we're focusing in on a specific astrological topic that involves the energies of Saturn in Pisces and Jupiter in Taurus as they are making an ongoing sextile throughout late December, all of January, and into February. This energy is feminine, reflective, supportive. This energy is designed to help you assess what you're ready to build next and put energy into, as well as beautifully accepting where you're ready to make new choices, go in a new direction, and trust what is complete for you. So we will be diving into these themes here in today's show. But first, I'm going to start with the astrology so we can understand more about how this is unfolding. Now, if you recall, back in late December 2020, we had the great conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter. They were both at 0 and 1 degrees of Aquarius, creating a new synodic cycle together. This means they were on the same page. It's similar to a new moon energy, where now they begin a new intention. So you want to look at where you have 0 degrees of Aquarius in your chart, as this is where a new beginning occurred, and it's significant. It was something that you were really meant to broaden your horizons around, expand, understand the bigger picture of your life, of your dreams, really own more of what you want to do here during your time on the planet. This was a powerful energy of seeding something new into your consciousness that perhaps you had been disconnected from, or you pushed aside, you weren't ready, you didn't know what to even do with it. Then this great conjunction, again in December 2020, was a powerful initiation point of new dreams, new ways of living your life, and what was calling to you. So that was nearly exactly 3 years ago from when I'm doing this podcast today, which is happening on December 18th, 2023. So 3 years ago, Saturn, Jupiter together in your chart at 0 and 1 degrees of Aquarius, basically sending you off in a new direction to understand your life path and what you want to experience next. So now we move here into late 2023, where we find that Saturn is now in the early degrees of Pisces and Jupiter is in the early degrees of Taurus. So what you want to do now is look in your chart at where you have the early degrees of Pisces between 0 and 7 degrees of Pisces, as well as identify the house where you have early degrees of Taurus, specifically around 5 degrees of Taurus. These are now the two areas of your chart that are in communication through this sextile between Saturn in Pisces and Jupiter in Taurus. And this is where you are realizing what needs to go, what is complete, what is finishing out, what you are releasing and letting go of, so that you can move on to build what is inspiring you, what is calling to you, what is energizing you. Now, before we get into more of those specifics, there's some other things to understand here around how this energy has played out. Both Saturn and Jupiter are social planets. They are the ones that connect us to our pivotal life choices, because Jupiter is the energy of yes, let's do it, I want that. Saturn is the energy of no, or you have to work for it. You've got to apply your effort. It's not just going to show up easily. So they are different archetypal forces in our lives that show us what we want and what we have to work for, what comes easily and what comes over time. So when they are amplified, or when they're in this harmonious connection, you have some realizations around what is true for you, what is best for you, and again, what choices you're making that are putting you into alignment with where you want to go next. Now, Saturn entered Pisces in March 2023, traveled all the way to 7 degrees of Pisces, where there was a station retrograde that occurred on June 17th. Saturn then traveled back to 0 degrees of Pisces and stationed direct on November 3rd. So if you have planets or points in those early degrees of Pisces, you've been feeling this influence more personally. This is where Saturn is working with you to assess what you've created, what is still true for you, what you still want. But oftentimes there's a letting go here of what is no longer meant to continue on with you. Saturn in Pisces highlights endings, and sometimes those can be disappointments. Those can be things that you don't want to leave or you're not done with. At least your ego doesn't feel like you're complete with it. Saturn in Pisces can bring up the karma we're completing, what is closing out, the healing path that we have gone as far as we can, and now we are basically putting a period at the end of the sentence and wrapping it up with a bow in order to set ourselves free for the next cycle. Saturn in Pisces can also bring up lessons in loss, how we deal with disappointment, what we do when things are leaving, and the grief that comes up, the way that we have to surrender. As hard as we want something to go in one direction, Saturn in Pisces can steer it in another direction. And so Saturn in Pisces is actually gifting us with the opportunity to practice acceptance. Acceptance of what is, acceptance of what was. Now, it's important to note here that acceptance is not the same as agreement. It's not as if you have to like it. It's not as if you have to say, sure, okay, I want this to occur. That's what I choose. Rather, acceptance is the higher spiritual wisdom of understanding what has unfolded, similar to moving through a storm. And the storm was right outside your door, or perhaps within you. And that storm was blustery and intense and stirring up the winds and really powerfully activating various forces. Things were flying around and perhaps there was damage, and it could have been a lot of energy at once. And what acceptance does is it says, yes, that occurred. That happened. That was part of my experience. I can accept that that was the situation. That was the experience. That is what I went through. And again, it's different than agreement, because agreement is often something that comes from our ego or our mind or our personal energy fields, where we don't agree with something or we don't like it. We're not happy about it. You did not enjoy that storm. You did not want that storm to occur. It wasn't something that you thought you signed up for or that you would have to endure. But acceptance is the higher energy of saying, okay, I can accept that that happened, even though I didn't like it, even though it was painful or damaging, whatever your personal experience around it may be, which is very valid. And it's important to work through that, to work with that. Saturn in Pisces could be showing you what you are working through in order to accept what is or what was. It can be revealing how you move through grief or a grieving process. It can also show you how you handle the harsh realities of life that we have to move through at times. So what this Saturn in Pisces is ultimately steering us towards is how we can accept the way life unfolds when it's outside of our perceived control, when it's outside of what we want. Can you accept what is? And the more that we practice this, the more that we're able to claim this, we can feel a lightening within ourselves, a lightening of our burdens, a sense of peace rising up, a sense of, okay, I went through that. I did my best through that. And even I'm still healing through that. It doesn't mean it's fully closed. There could be things that you're still having to look at and face. But this Saturn actually gives you the strength to do so. Saturn is your backbone. It's your spine. It's your fortitude. It's your ability to carry on and carry forth. And in Pisces, it gives us the strength to accept endings, to deal with loss, to be aware of what has served its purpose and served its time. And you could even feel a beautiful love for yourself. You could even feel, hallelujah, I've been through a lot and I see that in myself. I understand what I was healing, the lessons. I understand perhaps the karma I needed to move through in order to gain more wisdom. When we practice acceptance, we're also practicing the higher expressions of unconditional love, where you can go into those higher frequencies of unconditional love for yourself or for others and understand, okay, this is where they are at. This is what they are choosing. This is what they are participating in, or this is what they're putting energy into. And it can also give you the strength to own what's best for you, to detach and say, okay, I can see that is what they're choosing, but I have to choose what's best for me. I have to trust my own path, go my own way. I have to trust that the separation is ultimately for our best and highest good, even if I'm not fully at peace with it in my heart. Even if it's not what I would choose, I can understand though why this occurred or why this is happening, because I accept where someone is at, I accept where I'm at, and I'm willing to work with that energy in order to be in alignment with my path. So this energy of Pisces is a separation. And when you think of the glyph for Pisces, it's two fish. It's one fish swimming up and one fish swimming down. And this is meant to symbolize our journey up into the spiritual realms and back down into the human experience. And then back up into the spiritual wisdom and then back into the physical world and what we have to manage in our daily lives. And Pisces gifts us with the ability to be malleable, to be adaptable, to say, okay, this is what is happening. I didn't think it would go this way, but I'm going to do what I need to do to be strong in my choices and be strong in my alignment with my soul. And so part of the Pisces intention is to put you into higher alignment with what your energy needs next. And to honor that for yourself, especially if there's a separation, especially if there's something you have to let go of, especially if there's a disappointment. And those disappointments can take time. They can be emotional, but the way through them, especially with Saturn, is to face them, is to acknowledge them, is to understand, yeah, I'm really bummed out. This is not what I thought. This is not what I would have chosen, but it is what it is. And even though there's a part of you, you could feel your higher self is connected to that frequency, even if your human self is still moving through the emotions or still dealing with the healing path of it. So there is that split in the Pisces experience. But if you are strengthening that in yourself, meaning you're aware, okay, I trust the bigger plan. I know this is for my best and highest good. I'm aware of it. And that can bring me peace, even if my humanness is sad or upset or throwing a tantrum. The two Pisces realms can actually energetically balance you. And you might feel that part of those lower emotions start to leave, start to fade out, start to dissipate, because you've honored the beauty of their energy and what they were offering you through that emotional expression. So there is honesty required here, and it also can bring up how you deal with your emotional world, especially privately. Pisces is a private energy. It can show you how you handle disappointment and what you do as life changes and ebbs and flows, and how you're able to even go into those emotional waves while then continuing to rise up into greater trust in your journey. So the energy of acceptance is strong here, and it is through that acceptance that you then are in alignment with where you're ready to go next, what you're ready to move into and move towards. Now, the strong Saturn and Pisces energy is in that sextile to Jupiter in Taurus. Now, Jupiter entered Taurus back in May 2023 and traveled all the way to 15 degrees of Taurus, where Jupiter then stationed retrograde September 4th and journeys back to 5 degrees of Taurus until December 31st. And so it's at this 5-degree point that Jupiter is hanging out for the second half of December and the first half of January 2024. And it's bringing your attention to something that you're desiring to build. And the Taurus energy is patient and observant. It will sit with something until there is something very clear, often from the external world, that is the green light, that is the yes. And then there can be a sense of, I'm ready, here I go. And determination takes over. Jupiter in Taurus is determined and will stay the course. It will see something through, get it to the finish line, and move with a very steady pace. So with this Jupiter in Taurus, there is something here that you really needed to reprogram around your own worth, self-acceptance, and love. What you love about yourself, what lifts you up, what brings you something that gives you life, that feels loving and kind, and even calms your soul. You could be sitting with some big choices around what you want to manifest next, what you feel elevates your creativity, where you want to experience more peace and harmony in your life or in yourself. This is also where the Jupiter energy amplifies those feelings so that we can trust it. We can trust that it's possible. We can trust our own abilities to manifest something because it uniquely connects to our own frequency and desires. Jupiter in Taurus perhaps has allowed you to just remain calm, steady, and clear for a portion of yourself and your energy this year. There could be something that you're like, I'm okay just waiting. It's all right. I trust it's going to happen. I'm not going to push the river. I'm not going to overdo it to make something happen. There's no force here. There's no forcing it. And that is a big theme with this Jupiter in Taurus sextiling Saturn in Pisces. There's a part of you that can feel and sense you're not meant to do something until you intuitively feel it. You could have that energy of, it's coming together behind the scenes. It's not quite time. I'm just meant to exhale and relax. I'm meant to soften into trusting these flows of energy. And this is a very feminine expression. Both the Pisces and Taurus energies are feminine, and they are aware that there are ways to use your energy as well as ways to pull back your energy. And you could be feeling that in these areas of your chart, that you're not really looking to make it happen. You can even go back to when Saturn and Jupiter were conjunct in Aquarius. And you had all this gusto and inspiration and great ideas and, brilliant breakthroughs. And as the years have unfolded and as things have perhaps come together or fallen apart, you could see where the management of your own energy is continually important. Being able to know when to go forward, when to pause, when to hit reverse, all of that is part of our mastery. It's similar to trusting the street light signals where, okay, if there's a red light, you stop. Yellow light, you slow down, and green light, you go. And it could feel like that's the dance you've had to do with both Saturn in Pisces in the sextile with Jupiter and Taurus because they both have had to station retrograde and then station direct. And so as things have formed and come together, other things have fallen apart and left. And that could be confusing. That could be difficult. Again, that goes back to how you're able to manage your own emotional world and expectations, but to continue to trust that what is happening behind the scenes is going to be worth it. Now, as I said, both Saturn and Jupiter are social planets and they represent where to say yes and where to say no. But during their retrogrades, which were happening at the same time, it could have felt like there were a lot more no's. No, no, no. What you thought might work didn't. What you thought might grow and develop fell flat. And that could certainly give us a loss of confidence or a loss of hope. Now, Jupiter stations direct December 31st, 2024. And this is then a period of time where both planets will be direct. So basically in January and February, they are in a sextile and both are direct. Both have learned a lot from what they needed to revise or reframe, what you've needed to clear out, what you've needed to accept about the reality of your experience or the reality of your world. They've both been undergoing a deeper review. But as this Jupiter stations direct, their connection together increases and they gain strength going forward. Now, they're going to have a second exact sextile at 7 degrees. So Saturn in Pisces at 7 degrees, Jupiter in Taurus at 7 degrees, and this will be in effect February 5th to February 8th. And so you could feel like something is finally forming and taking shape, that the yes you want is working with the boundaries of Saturn, the reality check of Saturn. You could feel a new peace around something that you were waiting for, wishing for, hoping for. You could also see the energy be more evident. You could see that it's clearer now why there were delays or pushbacks or why things were shut down. And I feel like this deeper work we've been doing has actually supported us in hearing what Saturn is no longer wanting us to take forward. Because the bigger energy here is Saturn. Saturn is more dominant and influential than Jupiter. For every yes that Jupiter has, Saturn will give a no or not right now, it's not the right time. And so because of this ongoing dance, one thing that you might feel in yourself is that you've been better at trusting the timing of your life, trusting what does not have your name on it, and also trusting the wisdom that Saturn in Pisces is offering us, which is about what needs to close out so that you truly have room to build going forward, so that you can understand that not everything is going to match your vibration or your frequency right now. Saturn in Pisces is showing us the soul contracts that are ending, how we are on different paths, the karma that's being completed. It's showing us what we might have overlooked that's also important. And if, for example, you said no to something, Saturn could bring it back around and say, actually, you're meant to say yes to this. This is actually for you. Even if you pushed it away or shut it down or there was something that didn't seem plausible, Saturn brings it back to say, this is on your spiritual path. This is part of your ascension. So that's one of the things we navigate with the Saturn in Pisces as well, is that we can feel like there's a lot of closures and endings and things we have to unravel, things we have to step away from. But Saturn also is holding something that is true for you and your next level of ascension. It's part of your spiritual path. It's a new way of understanding the energies. Because for all the ways that Pisces is about closures and allowing things to dissolve and be complete. There is an alchemy component with Pisces where you alchemize between the human and the spiritual, and that helps elevate you to see things in a new way. So don't be surprised if that Saturn in Pisces brings back something that is meant to travel with you, but maybe you had to reprogram something within yourself first. You had to allow something else to end so that you were a frequency match. You had to perhaps go down one path and realize, no, this isn't right for me. I'm not wanting this. I made a mistake. And then you come back and claim, this is the higher path. This is the truer direction. Or I didn't see it before. That's also part of the Pisces energy, is the Pisces mist and fog and illusions can confuse us. You can say, oh, I thought it was this, but it's not that at all. It's something else. And Saturn won't let it go. Saturn is going to make sure it's sitting right there on the end of your nose. You can see it. You don't miss it because it's meant to travel with you on the next phase of your journey. So keep that in mind, that this sextile could also show you that something is not over. But that only works if there's an energy match, right? That only works if you're at the same vibration and frequency as that thing. And so that could be a person, that could be a friend, that could be a job, that could be a second decision, that could be anything. So that's why you want to look at where you have the early degrees of Pisces in your chart and the early degrees of Taurus in your chart, because it's those two areas of your life that are talking to each other, that have been working something out, that are both releasing and building. But the way I see it is because Saturn is the stronger influence and Saturn is traveling behind Jupiter. Jupiter is opening up these doors. Jupiter is throwing money in the air and saying yes to all the invitations and wanting to learn and grow. And Saturn is kind of like the street cleaner coming behind the tracks and saying, nope, we're not doing that. That goes in the trash. That is garbage. Absolutely no. And then when Saturn finds something it really likes, Saturn's like, okay, this is a definite yes. We're maintaining this. We're working with this. We're going to keep this, even as we clean up all these other things that are excessive and not needed. And so needless to say, this could be confusing. This could be a back and forth. This could be, wait, I thought that was over, and now here it is again. Or I thought I said yes to that, and now I'm saying no. Or I said no to that, and now I'm saying yes. And the reason why it's confusing is because of these retrogrades, where it hasn't been clear or certain. And there could even be a lot of wisdom in where you said no and then realized that was a mistake or that wasn't true for you anymore because of all the healing work you've done, because of what you've cleared out, what you've had to face, even the karmic cycles that you've completed. And then something comes back around and you're like, okay, now it's different. Now I'm different. Now I know where I'm going. And yes, this is in alignment with that track. This is true for me. So in January and February, there is going to be greater clarity between these two areas of your chart, between the Pisces and the Taurus conversations, what you've been trusting, maybe where you've been hesitating, what you've been emotionally working through, and where you've been laying new groundwork to build up a foundation, where you've been perhaps connecting to a new dream or a next step that was just floating around. It hadn't fully landed until this Jupiter stations direct. And now there is something firm you can rely upon. There's an energy here that is more solid. I feel this also beautifully connects to acceptance and to non-judgment, to not judging yourself or others for their choices, and to see it from a higher spiritual perspective, which is that on this playing field of earth, all feelings, all choices are in play. People can go in any direction, and we often do. So what are you realizing is best for you, is in alignment with what dreams you want to experience? Remember, we're going back to when that great conjunction occurred between Saturn and Jupiter, 0 and 1 degrees of Aquarius, and saying, this is where I want to go. This is what I want next. And Saturn in Pisces is showing you what cannot go with you and what is possible after you accept your own lessons with it, after you do the spiritual healing work, after you own the karma or the energies that are your responsibility. Because Saturn doesn't let us off the hook. It's almost like the sooner we can accept it, the sooner we take responsibility. Saturn loves that. Yes, that's right. That's correct, because that's your power. That's your energy. That's what you're claiming for yourself. And the more responsible you are, the better things can align, the better things can play out. Then we have Jupiter and Taurus over here, ready to go, wants to make it a reality, wants the money to come in, wants the physical shape to be evident. But because that Jupiter has been retrograde, we've had to relook at things, reassess, and also get rid of what's not in our own value alignment. So basically, there will be a turning of the tides here after Jupiter stations direct. And this coincides with the new energies of 2024. So in January and February, prepare for things to come together. Prepare for your hard work to be clearer and more evident. Prepare for what you've had to reassess, where you've had to be patient, where you maybe even felt like things were taken out of your grasp. See how they're going to come into a new shape and form. And there could be something very smooth about this energy. The sextile is ease and grace. The sextile brings together components that are in harmony. And it can make the delays, the emotional pains, the discouragement, all of that can dissolve and fade away because now you get where you're going next. And Saturn is going to travel through the same territory he covered in 2023 and is going to move faster through those degree points where you could feel like things just click, 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 lock, 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 yes, yes, yes. And this is especially true with the support of Jupiter in Taurus, where now your patience pays off and you could even have better things come about because of what you learned, what you trusted, what you understood was simply part of the process. This could have even been really good practice for you to move into those feminine energies of trust, grace, internal reflection, softening into yourself, as well as continuing to know that you're not journeying by yourself, that the universe is supporting you. There is a divine harmony at play, even though it's confusing at times, but it's ultimately getting you in higher alignment with what you do want to manifest in this life. Both planets will be direct and moving forward in their respective astrology signs until May 2024. Then we're going to see Jupiter enter Gemini on May 25th. And this is a much more active Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter is now going to have so many ideas and things to say. There's going to be more options and possibilities for that foundation you've been building. There's going to be new ways to grow it, new ways to talk about it, new ways to learn what is adaptable or what is useful for the next phase. And when Jupiter moves in to Gemini, there begins a new dance between Jupiter and Saturn, because now they're going to be in a square. And I discussed this in the 2024 Soul Growth Astrology program, where we look at the energetics that change as Jupiter moves into Gemini and squares the Saturn in Pisces, because there's a strong focus now on mutable energies, which is about adaptability and choices, being able to consider multiple directions, but honoring what is worth your time, energy, and attention, and what is just a distraction or only scattering your energy in multiple ways. So you definitely want to check out that information if you have planets or points in Pisces and Gemini, because this is going to impact you. How Jupiter and Gemini is now going to have a new conversation with this Saturn in Pisces in the second half of 2024. So to summarize, look at what you can accept. Remember, that doesn't mean you agree with it, but you can accept it. You can accept it for your own best and highest good. You can accept it to set yourself free and release you from any ongoing karma. You can close out a healing chapter. You can set yourself free from something that maybe has been really difficult and sad. I don't want to discount how disappointment shows up or how we can really be grieving a significant ending to our life. Like if you have to close a business, if you're stepping away from something you've invested a lot in, that isn't easy, especially if it's something you've had for years and years. That takes time to process. That doesn't happen overnight. And it can certainly be something that, you're fighting or you go back and forth in your mind about, okay, what if I don't let it go? What if I don't sell it? What if I don't step away from it? But then it isn't your real path. It isn't your happiness. It isn't leading you to that next chapter that you really want. So here we have Jupiter and Taurus reminding you that you can build the next dream. This is really true if you have planets in Taurus. You are designed to build and be successful and to create things in the world that bring about beauty and happiness and offer things that no other astrology sign can. So there is something that's shifting over here for some people in very big ways, almost like you don't have a choice, which of course stirs up the ego, right? Or stirs up, no, I'm going to fight for it. I'm going to force it. I'm going to keep going. And the universe has other plans because you're needed in a new way. Your soul assignment is changing. Your soul gifts are opening up in a new way. You're being called into new experiences that might not be here just yet, but you can sense them and you can feel them. So know that there is a turning of the energies that can bring up a lot of feelings, but I feel like there's a part of you that knows the higher path, that can trust the bigger direction and can work with these energies through both your human self and your spiritual self. And that's where you're also finding a new internal harmony and a new internal alignment. I'm just seeing someone who has to sell a business. And I feel like part of what is important, and I realize this is super specific, it's not a failure or it's not as if you did anything wrong. It's connected to a bigger energy change on the planet. And I feel like it's even people who are really talented, who have a lot of gifts, who have a lot of creativity. Now you're being urged to use it in a new way. So if you can see the beauty in that, you can see that you are actually being blessed in your new direction and in the forward motion that the universe is guiding you towards, even if at the same time you're grieving. Because you can absolutely and simultaneously have both experiences of excitement about where things are going and then sadness and loss at what is phasing out. But I hope this information gives you more of your own ability to accept the changes, to continue to trust yourself, to remember that there are always new dreams to create, and there's still a lot of life to lead. There's a lot of experiences to be had. Some of the best times of your life haven't even occurred yet. So keep that in your mental space as well and allow that to be something that energizes you. So as always, thank you so much for joining me for this podcast. I hope there was at least one message or something that resonated with you and helped you on your path at this time. I'll be back every Monday and Wednesday with a new podcast episode. The Wednesday shows are where we discuss the weekly energies, and the Monday shows are where we focus in on a specific topic. You can find all of my current astrological offerings and programs at mollymccord.online. And I also have business programs designed for entrepreneurs and solopreneurs who are focused on building their dream business based on your own unique energy. And that is something I will be also offering in 2024. So I'll have more details about those events and programs coming up. Wishing you a beautiful day ahead, hoping that you are feeling in greater acceptance and alignment with your path. And I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Take good care.